Hey, what is up guys? It is Needle. Welcome back to my channel for a new video today. Today's video, I'm going to be a ranking video on the current top 10 controller players right now in Fortnite. As of the time that I am recording this video, it has been about 10 months since I made an updated video similar to this one. At the time, I think the video was called the best controller players right now in Fortnite, and I only did top 5 controller players in that video, and obviously I think it does go without saying, the list is going to be a lot different. The meta has changed, the top players have kind of swapped in and out, and also I do want to warn you guys, just in case you guys are looking out for it, this is not going to include any kind of creative players at all. So if you're fans of face sway or pluralism, don't worry, they're not going to be on this list. I can make a creative list in the future, but this list is going to be focused on competitive placement and how these controller players have done in recent tournaments here in chapter 2 season 2. And as always, if you guys do enjoy this video at any point and want to see more videos like this one in the future, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications, and let me know down in the comment section below, what would your top 10 controller player list look like? Let me know down in the comments. We could have a little bit of a debate. I want to see what you guys would have done differently, where you would have placed some of these top players, so let me know down in the comment section below. Now, starting off the list at number 10, we have AV, who is a controller player from NA East. Now, AV is a pretty cool controller player to look at just because he's been doing with Liquid Chap for a little bit at this point, and he's been growing pretty fast on Twitch. So if you guys do know AV, it probably is from Twitch. Like I mentioned though, he's a little bit of a weird story for competitive just because he's been playing all the way since World Cup qualifiers, but he just recently started getting the recognition in chapter 2, mainly with the addition of cash cups. At first, AV was kind of seen as like a cash cup warrior, but if you've ever seen his gameplay, you know that AV is a very placement dominant controller player. So he's a really smart player when it comes to late game rotates and how to win games, so stuff like that. This is what makes him and Chap a really good duo together. Their playstyles kind of mesh really well because Chap, if you guys know him, he is a veteran of competitive Fortnite. He's known for being one of the best rotators on keyboard and mouse. So the duo of Chap and AV has paired them really well together, and I can see why they've been doing so good in the recent duo tournaments. Now for AV's significant placements, it would definitely be 14th in the squad finals of FNCS, and just recently in the duo FNCS finals, him and Chap just placed 4th. So you guys can see as of recently, AV has really been playing well competitively, as well as he's also a very good solo player with a ton of first place finishes and cash cups and just general good solo placements to come with that. So yeah, make sure to keep an eye out for AV. He's one of the top rising controller players as of recently. Coming in at number 9, we have Lechy from EU. Now, if you know Lechy, you may know him as the duo partner of Woofies, or just the fact that he's one of the few controller players to actually qualify for World Cup. Now, unlike AV, Lechy is the complete opposite when it comes to competitive. Lechy is a pure W key machine going for kills. Regardless of the mode he's been playing in, whether it's solos, duo, or squads, Lechy is infamous for running around the map, trying to get as many kills as possible by aggressing every single box he can find. Now, it is really interesting watching him and Woofies play just because they really are so W key heavy and they always have some of the best loot on the map. You can understand why they do so good in open qualifiers, but they really haven't placed that great when it comes to like the finals and tournaments and things like that. But for his notable placements, Lechy has still managed to do really well. In the 3 days of Winter Royale, they managed to get 4th, 9th, and 3rd on EU in just the 3 days of Winter Royale alone. And then although this W key playstyle didn't really seem to work that well in the finals, considering him and Woofies got 27th in the duo FNCS finals, they always seem to dominate online with a ton of single-digit placements in the online duo qualifiers. Coming in at number 8, we have Knight FN, who actually may be the most underrated controller player on this list. At first, I didn't even know Knight was on controller player just due to the fact that he's really not that big on Twitch or Twitter yet, so I really honestly just saw his name on the leaderboards and assumed he was on keyboard and mouse. But Knight's a weird story also. He first started getting recognition in his comp play in trios, where his trio actually placed 19th in the finals of the trio FNCS, but as of recently, Knight and his duo Rogue Shark have been at the top of duos. Some of their best placements in duos start with a handful of number 1s in the daily duo cash cup, including one week where him and his duo Rogue Shark actually griefed my duo, and yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Cut that out. But either way, Knight and Rogue Shark have been absolutely doing great in duos, starting with the duo FNCS week 1 where they got 12th in the finals, then they ended up getting 2nd in the duo FNCS week 3 finals, and then in week 4 they ended up getting 5th place as well, and then in the actual grand finals of the duos FNCS, him and his partner Rogue Shark ended up getting 3rd place, taking home a good chunk of money. So stay on the lookout for Knight. He's definitely one of the rising controller players as well, and has been doing absolutely great with duos with his duo Rogue Shark. Coming in at number 7, we have everyone's favorite controller player on NA West, WavyJacob. Now, WavyJacob, if you guys have seen any of my videos on him or know anything about him, you would know that he's just known for dominating the NA West region. WavyJacob started really popping off, I would say, in about trios, so right around like August and September of 2019. Wavy was actually one of the better controller players on Legacy when it was in the game, but he actually has transitioned really well over to Exponential, still being one of the top controller players in the game. Now, when it comes to his competitive play, he has some of the craziest stats I've ever seen in these tournaments. So when I was looking at his Fortnite trackers on just how he does in an average event, WavyJacob averages a total of 6.43 kills every single game before he dies. So really think about that. This man really almost has a 7 kill death ratio in competitive tournaments on Fortnite. So you get to see why he's absolutely dominant when it comes to getting kills in game. So some of his recent placements include an absolute domination of the NA West Winter Royale. Him and his duo Thomas got first place in days 1 and 2 of Winter Royale, and then they finished day 3 by getting third. So they absolutely dominated. Probably could not have played much better unless they actually did end up winning day 3 of Winter Royale. And then the duo FNCS finals, him and his duo Thomas also placed 18th as well. Now coming in at number 6, we have Thomas. Now funny enough, this is WavyJacob's duo partner and who WavyJacob did play trios with. Now, don't get too upset at me in the comments just because I understand WavyJacob is a little bit more popular and Thomas just doesn't really get as much recognition, but the reason that I have him above Jacob is just purely because he has performed better in solos. Like I mentioned, WavyJacob is the, more popular streamer and more popular player, but Thomas is hands down the better solo player. So considering him and WavyJacob did play duos and trios together, I am only going to focus on the solo placements of Thomas, which has to start where he got 5th in the DreamHack Anaheim solo tournament, which was the most recent Fortnite LAN event we've had since coronavirus. Now it is interesting to look at their stats next to each other because Thomas does take the edge. When looking at Thomas has got 16 first place finishes and 71 session top 100s, and then looking on WavyJacob on the other hand, Jacob has got 14 first place finishes and then has only gotten top 100 66 times. Don't get me wrong, both are very, very insane players, but when comparing the two for this list video, Thomas does take the edge over WavyJacob. Coming in at number 5, we have Woofy's, the 16-year-old controller player from EU. Now, if this list wasn't based off of Chapter 2 placements, Woofy's would hands down be first on this list, considering he got 2nd in the World Cup for duos, so he has over $1 million in earnings or something crazy like that. Now, for the actual playstyle of Woofy's, if you guys have ever seen his stream, you would know that this kid is absolutely nuts on controller. He has some of the quickest and fastest mechanics I've ever seen on controller, so if you guys haven't had the chance to watch him, just check out the gameplay for him. Now, Woofy's is also the duo partner for a former controller player I mentioned, Lechi, so they play absolutely mad together as a duo. Having 2 controller players on a duo is going to make for a crazy amount of kills, so they're super fun to watch together as they both land the agency, and they chase everyone around when they finally get that mythic drum gun, dropping a ton of kills in those open qualifier lobbies. Now, for his actual recent placements, he finished 22nd in the solos at DreamHack Anaheim, but he really didn't do too great in duos with Woofy's. They didn't really place that well in the actual finals of the tournament, but he actually did place really, really well in the squads tournament. He was on the dominant squad of him, Mongrel, and Benji Fishy, and they ended up getting 2nd in the squad FNCS finals. So I'm sure you guys all know this, but Woofy's is a very, very nasty controller player. Make sure to actually go check him out if you guys haven't seen him build or anything. He is an absolute nut. Coming in at number 4, we have everyone's probably favorite controller player on NA East, NRG Unknown. Now, Unknown's also one of those players I made a ton of videos on, but Unknown is a really special player to watch considering he is a hybrid player on this list. Obviously, he started and qualified for World Cup on controller, but over time, I've seen his streams and just watched him play. He switched over to keyboard mouse basically fully at this point and can play whenever he wants. So Unknown is a really special player to watch, but if you guys don't know who Unknown is, he's basically the king of solo cash cups on NA East. This man seems to get first in almost every single cash cup with the most dominant performances. Unknown is a special case to watch though, like a lot of these controller players, just because he is so kill dominant and known for being a W keyer. So he gets a lot of flack saying his playstyle really won't transition over to competitive, which really isn't the case. He actually got first in the FNCS squad finals on NA East. Him and his squad actually did the same kind of meta he uses when he plays solos and duos and other tournaments. They ran around the map and they W keyed, and it just seemed to work for squads. They racked up a ton of eliminations and overall it seemed to work. Unknown is one of the craziest box fighters I've ever seen in the game. If you guys ever seen any of his gameplay, you guys would know how good he is. But yeah, Unknown is definitely one of the top controller players in the world at this point, as well as keyboard and mouse players. So if you guys don't know Unknown at this point, I don't know where you guys have been. Now, coming in at number 3, we have CRR, a controller player from EU, and is probably better known as Mitro's new duo. Now, CRR is not someone that I've actually been following for a crazy amount of time, just because I first first heard about him from Mitro, but ever since I started watching his gameplay, I think the easiest way to describe his gameplay is very, very hard hitting shotgun shots. This man has one of the hardest hitting pumps I have seen on controller. Now, at first, he really didn't get a ton of exposure in the community just because he didn't really qualify for the World Cup, but since then, he has actually started popping off in almost every single kind of mode, starting with trios, where his trio ended up placing 15th in the finals. Now, for the notable placements since then, it would definitely have to be Winner Royale, where he ended up getting 3rd, 4th, and 31st in the 3 days of that. And then other than that, you can find him dominating solo and duo cash cups in the EU region with Mitro. Now, he has an absolutely insane kill death ratio. I had to include this in the statistic just because I saw it on Fortnite tracker. He has a 6.86 kill death ratio, basically meaning he is getting 7 kills every single game before he dies. So just something to think about, just how good this man is at getting kills at W King. Absolutely nuts. Coming in at the number 3 spot is CRR. Now, coming in at the number 2 spot, we have NRG Epic Whale. It was by far just the weirdest case there is on this entire list. Epic Whale has always been playing on keyboard and mouse the entirety of Fortnite. He just recently switched over to controller about 3 months ago. Now, when I first started watching his streams and just watching his YouTube videos, I didn't really think he was going to switch to controller. I thought it was going to be one of those things he was just like experimenting with for fun, trying to see how good he could get, maybe just to see if he could get some good mechanics. Well, the weird thing is he got pretty good mechanics very, very quick. He understood the meta of controller is all about abusing the aim assist, and he ended up actually saying also that he really liked the movement of controller over the movement of keyboard, and that's basically what made him make the full-on switch to controller. Now, it hasn't really affected his competitive gameplay at all. He's kind of adapted the exact same play style, but to controller. Even before he was playing on controller in all these tournaments, he was landing the agency, and that is still what he does now in all the tournaments. Now, the only difference is he plays on controller and gets aim assist with the mythic drum gun at the agency. So, Epic Will is hands down one of the most respected and best competitive players all time in Fortnite. He got 3rd in the World Cup solos at New York, and is still getting 1st in almost every single event on NA West. Him and his duo, even though he just switched to controller, still got 1st in the duo FNCS finals. So absolutely crazy player. Much respect to Epic Will, who's by far probably the best hybrid player there is in Fortnite at this point. Now, coming in at the number 1 spot, I have Scoped. Now, Scoped is by far one of my most favorite players to watch. I may be very biased considering he does play with Tfue, and that's where he got all of his exposure from, but I think Scoped is by far one of the most mechanical and just most fun controller players to watch in general. Now, the story with Scoped is kind of cool just because Tfue kind of like took him under his wing and really helped him a lot with competitive. I feel like Scoped started playing competitive all the way back in World Cup like a lot of these players were, but he really didn't do too hot at all in World Cup. His first big significant placement actually came in one of the first ever cash cups all the way back in last August, where he got 14th. So I think that's when he really started popping off and showing just how good he was on controller. But for whatever reason, I think Tfue kind of just saw the potential in Scoped and decided to kind of invest in him and try to see if he could make it work as a duo. So Tfue kind of took the role of the IGL who kind of made all the calls for the team and just let Scope kind of frag out endgame and get all their kills. It seems to work almost every single time. Tfue is kind of the brains of the team, while Scoped is the absolute madman running around getting all the kills. It's an absolute blast to watch, and it really does work well as a duo for them together, considering they did really, really well in most of the duo events and ended up getting 16th in the duo FNCS finals. But yeah, it may be biased considering I did put him at first. He is also my favorite player to watch, but let me know down in the comment section below what you would have redone with this list, how you would have ordered it yourself. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys want to see similar videos like this one, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.